Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, a subscribe, and maybe that cheeky little notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit from Glittering Trifle 421 and says, am I the arsehole here if I break up with my fiancée after she showed a startling change of behavior after getting engaged? I, male 32, just recently proposed to my girlfriend of 2 years, Sharon, female 30, like a month and a half ago, and it feels like the second the ring got on her finger, her attitude and behavior took a total 180. The entire time we were dating, we seemed exceptionally compatible, and at least it seemed we shared common beliefs and morals. 7 weeks ago I proposed and she said yes, and I felt like it was the happiest moment for the two of us. And not even a week later, it's like her attitude totally flipped. I thought I knew all her friends, but one day I came home and there were 6 women I've never seen before, and Sharon introduced me to them. I was curious as to why I was just now meeting them, when I already met Sharon's 2 best friends, Michelle and Octavia, but not present, over a year and a half ago. Sharon said she wanted to make sure we were a sure thing before I met her inner circle. I found this strange, not to mention it was a weeknight and they were quickly draining my wine rack of wine. Sharon still had her own place, but she stayed with me so often she practically lives here. Still, I found it incredibly rude when they left, with 4 empty bottles of rosé in their wake. I tried to talk to Sharon about having uninvited guests on weeknights, and she dismissed my grievance very flippantly. More that she brushed me off. The following week she went out with the girls several times. And when she brought the girls to my place, twice without notice, once with notice to appease me, her words, they all treated me like a butler, shaking their empty wine glasses at me for refills. After the 4th time I made it clear that I will get a locked wine rack. Sharon just called me no fun after that. It gets worse. Sharon decided me and the girls got off on the wrong foot and said we should have dinner together at a nice restaurant. Oh, don't do it. Well, I went, and it was not great. The 6 kept prodding me about my life, my house, my career, but deflected every question I asked. It got especially bad at night when they started talking about modern relationships and jealousy, and one of them brought up some key points about relationships that I thought Sharon and I were on the same page about. Specifically what-ifs regarding polyamory and being friends with exes. To my shock, Sharon said we shouldn't be too hasty on such decisions, which was a total 180 to how she expressed herself on these things only a month prior, where she was vehemently against keeping ex-intimate partners in friend circles and was staunchly monogamous. The worst part was when the bill arrived. Sharon announced it should be together and slid me the check. I told her she can't be serious, and we got into a bit of an argument. I ended it by putting my amount down in cash and walked out, leaving them to figure out the rest of the bill. The next days after that, Sharon kept calling me toxic and fragile, but every time I even pushed at it, she would give an apology and promise she was just stressed at work. It's nuts. We haven't even planned the wedding yet. The worst part was this Monday when at work I got a Nest doorbell alert. Checked and saw Sharon and one of her 6 new friends arriving at my place, going in and exiting with my golf clubs. The set was a gift from my father, and it cost a pretty penny too, so Sharon lending it out without my permission got me pissed. I immediately called Sharon and told her and a friend to return the clubs. Sharon tried to gaslight me with, but you promised to lend the clubs to her boyfriend, remember? I told her the clubs cost would move it into a serious crime, and her friend had an hour to return them or the cops would be called. Sharon kept insisting she got my permission and I told her to cut the crap. Well, not 45 minutes later I got another notification of Sharon and her friend coming back with my clubs and going inside, leaving them. Sharon's friend flipping off the Nest doorbell on the way out. I got home and saw Sharon's friend literally just threw the clubs back on the living room floor. Sharon tried to talk to me about my toxicity again, and I told her again to cut the crap. I said if I knew this was how she was, I would have never proposed. That seemed to freak her out, and she again insisted that she was stressed from work, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her to return the ring and her key, and we would talk about our relationship this weekend. She cried and begged me not to cancel the engagement and insisted that it was just stress. I told her again we would talk about it this weekend. She finally relented. I had my house rekeyed anyways after she left, just to be safe. Sharon has been texting me constant messages of love and apologies for getting swept up and insisted she was only wanting to show me off to her close friends. I don't know. I'm just not buying it. The same close friends have been sending me texts daily, calling me toxic and fragile again, saying they knew I wasn't man enough for Sharon or secure enough to share her with friends. A few of my friends that knew Sharon the entire 2 years we were dating were surprised and can't believe she turned hide this quick, and that there must be something missing, or that I am leaving something out. They say I must have said something to trigger her friends to act like this, and I had to have been the arsehole somewhere along the process. I don't know. It's a lot to take from all directions right now. It's one of those situations where she thought she was comfortable, so let that mask slip because she thought she had basically hooked you. And she didn't bring her friends around because she knows exactly what they're like, that they're also awful people. And now you've got her and her friends trying to gaslight you, calling you toxic and fragile, that you wasn't man enough, all this kind of bullshit. And as always, I know it's super easy for me to say, but I wouldn't even have a discussion with her no more. There is nothing there. You don't want to give this person another chance. If you do, there's a potential that they, tone down their behavior and just play the long game until you're married. And that brings up a whole new set of issues. But Melodic Sale says, I bet he hasn't seen Octavia and Michelle anymore. They did their purpose and now the ex is too stressed out from work to meet both of her friends. OP says, I did message Michelle on Facebook last night. I asked her about the six and she told me that her, Octavia and Sharon are cousins and grew up together. Michelle said that she didn't really care for the six, but didn't say much else. Apprehensive Fox says, not the arsehole, your friends are idiots and triggered. Nah, nobody normal comes to someone's house uninvited and drinks a ton of the person's wine without permission. That alone is a big no-no. But everything else on top of that? Nope, Sharon needed to be kicked out a long time ago. She and her friends were nothing but disrespectful towards you and your things, and just saw you as someone to use, period. And her behavior shows she did not care as long as she could use you and have access to your things. The only reason she is giving fake apologies is because you leaving means she can't use you anymore. And the same goes for her leech arsehole friends. Instead of apologizing and want to make it right by reimbursing you for the things they used, they're insulting you and she isn't even telling them to stop. So OP, you made the correct choice by not only kicking her out, but not going through with marrying her. Her and her friends are nothing but users who wasn't going to change at all and continue to do you. OP says again, they knew Sharon for 2 years, and throughout the entire time, Sharon didn't act at all like this. I'll give them some leeway for now. OP comes in to update their post and said, Sharon's been gone now for an hour. Breakup is official. Have the ring back. I did talk to Michelle via Facebook and Michelle said her and Octavia were cousins of Sharon. And Michelle also said she knew the six and didn't care for them. Michelle didn't say much more than that. I did meet Sharon's parents and they both seemed to like me, and the topic of Michelle and Octavia never came up around them. None of our finances were intermingled yet, but it was planned for later this month, which won't happen. I invited 3 of our mutual friends, Casey, John and Mike, to be here when Sharon got here. Sharon showed up and was surprised to see we had company. I said they were here for both of our sakes. Sharon wanted to phone 3 of the 6 to come over to even things out, and I refused, and I used a club theft as a reason. Sharon sat on the couch very dramatically and then asked if I really wanted to make this public. I outright asked why she changed so much after the engagement, and why she hid the existence of the 6. Sharon then went in again about how she insulates her inner circle until her partner is vetted. I called BS. I met her parents. What's more inner circle than your parents? Sharon tried to deflect, but I wouldn't have it. I pointed out how for the last month, her friends dropping by cost me nearly $500 in wine, which she, by the way, made no attempt to reimburse. I also pointed out her trying to make me pay an 8-person dinner bill without asking me first. She again said she wanted to show how great a guy I was and how she clearly misjudged me and was disappointed in my attitude. I then asked about the clubs. She tried gaslighting with, you totally said it was okay, remember? And I kept saying bullshit. Mike piped in. He knew the clubs were a gift from my dad, and I was highly protective of them. He too called BS, and that's when Sharon turned her attention to Mike and John, saying, "Isn't he getting forgetful lately? Don't you remember when he forgot that one date?" And neither was buying it. I finally said that forget postponing the wedding or cancelling the engagement. The entire relationship is going to end if she isn't going to be straight with me. Sharon made a very long, exaggerated sigh. She took the ring off and dropped it on the coffee table. She got up to leave and said, "You're never going to find someone as good as me." Thank goodness, right? And to send her stuff to her apartment. She left and Casey, John and Mike were totally stunned. All I could say was, "Believe me now?" We ordered pizza and are waiting for it to arrive now. I'm still utterly shocked and confused by Sharon's attitude. I'm sure the heartbreak will come next, but right now, I'm just kind of numb. When it kept mentioning the six, it sounds really cultish, doesn't it? Like they all come in and they're just trying to take everything from OP. Ooh, it gives me shivers. I just picture that scenario where they're all sat around this coffee table, the group of them, and they're talking about what went wrong and discussing things, and then suddenly she gets all this sassy attitude, stands up, drops the ring on the table and says, "You're never going to find someone like me." I'd have burst out laughing. A gaslighting, manipulative thief. Thank fuck for that. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this one? Do you think that's the end of Sharon, or do you think she will be back? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Street Blackberry 174 and says, "Am I the arsehole for telling my coworker that I didn't enjoy my pregnancy?" A new coworker started 3 months ago. Let's call her Linda. She seems pretty nice, which is why I'm really not sure about all this. At my work, we have a tradition where once a new employee successfully completes their probation, we go out for a team lunch. Nothing fancy, but something nice to celebrate. Linda passed her probation, so we went out for lunch. As we were eating, we all get to talking, and the topic of the magic of pregnancy and childbirth comes up. Everyone was sharing sweet moments from their pregnancy. I enthusiastically joined in, but didn't share any of my own. I think Linda noticed because she specifically turned to me and said, "You had twins, didn't you? That must have been a wonderful experience." I smiled and said something along the lines of how I wished my pregnancy and birth had been as positive as an experience as theirs had been. To be clear, it was not said sarcastically at all. The truth is, I hated every moment of being pregnant. I could write a long list of all the magical symptoms I had, but I'll just give you the highlights. Horrific, vivid nightmares. Hyperemesis gravidarum, severe morning sickness, debilitating migraines, and a metallic taste in my mouth. And then the birth. Honestly, I feel like anything that could go wrong, but not be life-threatening, did go wrong. Worst of all, due to some of the complications, I ended up being kept in hospital for a while, so I missed the first few days with my girls. It's safe to say I hated every moment of being pregnant and every moment of labor. It was not a magical experience by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't say any of this to Linda, I just responded as I mentioned. After my reply, Linda started getting short with me. Later, I asked her privately what was going on. She snapped and told me what I said was insensitive and undermined their experiences, and told me I was an arsehole for it. Since then, she's sort of cooled off and is less hostile, or at least less openly hostile. But last week she invited all the girls in the team to a ladies' night. Everyone but me. Now, I don't mind so much, since ladies' nights are not really my thing, but the fact that she pointedly excluded me has made things awkward. I feel like I need to do something. I'm not really in the mood for drama. I have enough of that in my life right now. I don't need more. So I haven't confronted her about it yet. And as I said, she is otherwise a really nice person. Normally pretty friendly and easygoing. So I'm left wondering if I really was an arsehole. Was what I said insensitive? Did it undermine their experiences? Before I ask her about it, I could use some perspective because I honestly just don't know. Am I the arsehole? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation at all. You was literally sharing your experience, what you went through. You literally just spoke about your experience when she asked you the question. Yes, many people do really enjoy pregnancy and have a wonderful as you can time with it. Whereas other people will have absolutely horrid times with pregnancy. Like OP said, they was having horrible nightmares, severe morning sickness, migraines. It just sounds like an absolutely awful time. And that was OP's experience. And of course, I don't know Linda, but she just sounds like one of those people you don't really want to mix with anyway. And you can confront her if you want, you can deal with this, but it just sounds like someone who will create more drama for you down the road. For me, and I'm only saying this from me personally, I wouldn't just want nothing to do with that, just be polite at work and just move on from it. Don't worry about what she's doing as long as she doesn't call you any more aggro. It just sounds like someone who's not worth the stress in your head. Just move her to one side. But then again, if it causes you anxiety and you need to get it off your chest, then I don't know. I imagine people will deal with this one in different ways, so I'm going to be interested in your thoughts on this one as well. Paul says, good lord, so not the arsehole. I would have wondered if she was pregnant with the way she responded. I also had a very miserable pregnancy and a serious life-threatening event, heart failure, so I can't relate to these stories. You weren't being sarcastic. You weren't telling these women that they sucked for having positive experiences. You didn't call them liars. You just shared your experience. She has shown that she's very petty by excluding you from a ladies' night event. All of this would make me very cautious of working on any projects with her. Good luck. Opie says it might be. The conversation came about because she was talking about how much she wished she was pregnant again. She has a 2-year-old and how she misses being pregnant. Could be she is in fact pregnant. But if she is, she clearly doesn't know it. Kath Joy says, just as in context, how did the conversation get that way? Is it possible Linda has had issues getting pregnant that you know of? Because otherwise I have no idea why this might have upset us, so maybe some context if possible would help. Commenter replies to that and says, this is the problem with chit chat in a work setting. I've fallen into so many traps where people bring up topics that we don't agree on or have the same experiences. And you never know what offends people. Talking about the weather, ethnic food or mass transit are very contentious where I work. What bothers me about OP's experience is that she didn't really say anything negative. Linda was reaching to find offense in her comments. I'm really curious about what goes on at that workplace of that commenter that they said, discussing the weather is really contentious. I mean, you can't really do much about it, I guess, unless we're talking about climate change, of course. I mean, that could cause some arguments, I assume. And one more comment who says, not the arsehole. I hated every minute of it too. Sure, I was excited to be having a baby, but the actual experience of pregnancy, birth and breastfeeding were incredibly unpleasant. I'm very happy for people who enjoyed it, maybe even slightly jealous of them, but everyone experiences things differently and that's okay. It's not undermining anyone else's experience. If it was, then you could argue that their gushing about it is undermining the struggle and unpleasant symptoms that you had. Perhaps she is struggling with fertility or something that's made her sensitive to the subject. I would just try to avoid the topic with her and try to be as friendly, as you don't know why she reacted that way. You have to work with her, so it's better to get along. Opie says yes. I think somebody else raised that she might have fertility issues. I feel like if that's the case, I can't win because she brought up the topic and she asked me. In future, I think I'll just avoid her or avoid talking about those topics if she brings them up with me. So then OP came in with her update and said, since posting, I've kept my distance from Linda as recommended by commenters, which has been tough because our work often overlaps and, we're in the same team. Since then, I noticed she has snapped at other co-workers as well. I figured that commenters were right, that now her probation was over, the nice girl act was over. Things were awkward. Then I heard her crying in the bathroom. I didn't want to get involved in case it caused another fight, but I also couldn't just leave her there where it might be a problem. So I told Tina, our team lead, who then went to check on Linda. A while later, Tina came back and said she had sent Linda home as she wasn't feeling well. A few days later, Linda came back to work. She asked to speak to me, alone. It probably wasn't the best idea, but I agreed to, and I'm glad I did. Linda apologized for how she snapped at me. I asked why she excluded me from ladies' night. She said she didn't invite me to the ladies' night because I had told her I didn't like them. To be fair, I have a vague memory of this coming up in conversation a while ago, but she had something else to tell me. It turns out some of you were right. Linda is pregnant. When she got home, her boyfriend asked her to take a pregnancy test because the last time she was pregnant, she got super broody and her mood was all over the place. Being happy one minute, bursting into tears the next, then being super irritable. As bad as she was being at work. She was even worse at home. She took a test and yep, she's pregnant. She told me she wanted me to be the first person in the office to know about it. I guess it was her way of apologizing. I accepted her apology and chose to believe her about the ladies' night, albeit cautiously. I'm still keeping a slight guard up because who knows, for all I know this is some game she's playing. But for now, I'm choosing to take her at her word. Obviously her being pregnant doesn't excuse how she spoke to me, but it does explain it. And if that is genuinely is the issue, then hopefully that means the issue is solved. And I think I agree with OP's way of dealing with it in this situation. You know, like she said, it explains what happened, doesn't excuse it, of course, and to just be cautiously okay with it. And hopefully there's no further drama. You know, you don't have to be best friends with this person, but you do have to work with them. So keeping that balance is the right way to go about it, in my opinion. You don't have to have lunches and stuff. You could just be cautious with her, like OP said. And there was many people in the comments below this one sharing their experiences of pregnancy. Some people saying how they sailed through it. Others saying, you know, they absolutely hated it. It was a horrid time. Sharing the various symptoms of like swollen feet and, you know, the changes in your body, the headaches, the morning sickness, iron deficiency. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.